welcome to the third video for dynamic content using PHP. Today we'll be putting PHP basics together, and I will be showing you a few examples. So, just to refresh your memory on what PHP can do. So, PHP is a server scripting language used for making dynamic and interactive websites, and it's like an alternative to Microsoft's ASP. And PHP is an acronym that stands for PHP Hypertext Preprocessor. It is a widely used open source scripting language. All PHP scripts are executed on the server, and it's free to download and use. But before you begin learning PHP, you should have a basic understanding of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And all PHP files contain text such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP code. PHP code is executed on the server, like I said before, and the result is returned to the browser as plain HTML. And one thing to remember is that all PHP files have the extension of .php, and most PHP files contain HTML tags and some PHP scripting code. So one thing to review is comments. So comments in PHP code are a line that is not read or executed as part of the program, and its only purpose is to be read by someone who is looking at the code. And these comments can be used to let others understand what you're doing and also remind yourself of what you did. So most programmers have experience coming back to their work a year or two later, having to refigure out what they did, and these comments can remind you of what you were thinking when you wrote the code. So unlike other programming language, PHP has no command for declaring a variable, and it's created the moment you first assign a value to it. And remember that there are three different types of variable scopes: local, global, and static. And we use two ways to get output, which are echo and print, which are pretty much more or less the same. And we also use conditional statements to perform different actions for different decisions. Okay, so a few more things about PHP. It can take info from web-based forms and use it in a million ways. For example, you can store it in a database, create conditional pages, depending on what the form said, set cookies for later, send emails, and do other things. You can authenticate and track users, run thread discussions on your site, serve different pages to people using different browsers or devices. You can publish an entire website using just a single layout template, which is the server side includes style. It can serve HTML pages, but before we can get to the specific uses of PHP, we need to start with like a quick preview of the building blocks of PHP, and beginning with a sample script, which I have on the screen right now. So when you enter this code, it should simply read, "I love learning PHP." So as you can see, you have the starting, the heading, and the closing. The opening and closing tags are at the ends, or the beginning and the end, and all the info for the text goes inside the middle. And the code inside itself fits right inside of a page's HTML, and like HTML, it's made out of plain text. Okay, so now we're going to be adding a bit more to this HTML code. So you would start with your title as HTML, and then you would say head, and then the title, and you can give it any title you want. I'll just say PHP, and don't forget to close your title. Okay, and then you would have the body, and you can also change like the font color or text size or whatever you want. So for this, I could make the font color to, let's say, purple. Close. And then you would start with the PHP code, and you would use this as a separate paragraph. You would have your PHP code. Then you close the paragraph, close your body, and close the entire HTML. So the HTML is rendered as regular HTML, but everything inside the PHP, the opening and closing PHP tags, gets processed as PHP. So remember that your basic extension is always .php when you save this file. And you should also get into the habit of writing comments, which I explained earlier. So at the start of the code, every piece of PHP begins with this here, and always ends with this. So much like HTML, the actual formatting of your PHP code, where you put like the spaces and line breaks, etc., it doesn't affect the outcome except those parts of the code that tell a web browser how to display your page. And each separate instruction that you write will end with a semicolon, so don't forget that. And now when you try to write your script, here's like the basic format. Okay, so now I'm just going to write like the basic format. And you would start, I can just delete all of this. Okay, so you could start with your head, your HTML, and then you could go to body. Then you would have like your PHP code. Oops. And then you could have stuff like print, and inside you would say anything you want. Like learning PHP is fun. And then don't forget to put the semicolon after all of your text. Then you would close the PHP, close your body, and then close the entire HTML. So after you do this, you can save the file with the extension of .php, and you will have your first PHP script. So then you can open it up and see the results. So this is the end of your lesson on putting a PHP code together, and be sure to check out other lessons for more information.